hat. Does anyone know where the hat comes from? I Googled it. No one knows where the hat comes from. It's theorized that it comes from what the hats were worn by 11th century Italian bishops. But they're not sure because they've actually changed over time. So even though we call it a traditional garment, we've actually changed it a bunch of times. So it's not even really traditional. But in all the records that we have throughout the last 1,000 years that apparently people have worn these as graduations, apparently at every time except time they have looked dumb. In addition, we have other things like pomp and circumstance, the music they play, da, 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 right? That's Edward Elgar is like a legitimate composer. He wrote a lot of stuff. Turn of the century British composer, wrote one of the best cello concertos ever written. But all we get from him is this one stupid piece he wrote. He actually wrote 4 pomp and circumstances and marches. Do you think it would kill us to try one of the other 3? And then, of course, there's always the commencement speeches. Commencement speeches have their own kind of weird traditions that we gather everyone together to tell you a pack of lies. One person once said there are 3 types of lies: lies, damned lies, and commencement addresses. So, the lines that go, I wrote this before, and I'm really glad no one said any of these lines tonight. So, I would feel bad insulting any of the students or something. But they say things like, you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you put your mind to. No, you can't. Of course you can't. Like here, you don't believe me? Go ahead. Find 3 integers, positive integers, such that a cubed plus b cubed equals c cubed. Go ahead, try it. Let me know when you get it. While you're at it, go ahead and find a ratio of integers that's equal to the square root of 2. Right? There are some things you can't do. And when we say things like that, we're lying. There's another one that no one said tonight when they talk about lifelong friends. Sorry guys, there are a few people, there are some lifelong friends in this room, I am sure of it. But most of you are going to leave, and most of the people here you're not going to see after Saturday. And there are some people you're really close with now that you're going to drift apart with over time. And that's fine, that's how life works. You should just be honest about it. And don't get me started about shoot for the moon. Oh my goodness, shoot for the moon. Do you know what happens if you shoot for the moon and you miss? It's not a good thing, okay? The phrase should go, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, then you will fly off into the inky void of space until you run out of oxygen and die. So I felt like today I should probably not lie to you. I think that that's not what we should do today. And so I'm going to try to debunk another lie that we tell ourselves. When you do graduation speeches, there's 2 things you have in mind. One is to make you feel good about yourselves, and number 2 is to try to give you advice that you think will help in the future. Tonight I've decided to try to do number 2, and in order to do that, I'm not going to do number 1. So, tonight this might be a little heavy. So, the lie I want to talk about is the one that says, but we worked really, really hard, and because of all that, we finally made it. You say, why do you call that a lie? Well, I mean, you guys did work hard, don't get me wrong, I know you worked hard. But we did other things too, didn't we? Let me be clear, some of you think you know where I'm going, but you're not sure. Let me be clear. Based on conversations I've had with students, conversations with administration, reading emails that I get from administration, and doing some reading up on in the literature, this room has in it quite a lot of cheaters. It's not a metaphor. I mean like people who look over at someone else's test, who turn someone else's paper in and call it their own, or who just write something from ChatGPT, write something and pretend that it's their own work, right? It's not everyone. I know it's not everyone. But based on national statistics, it's a good guess that it's between 40 to 70% of you. It's a decent number. It's enough that I can say it. And listen, I read about this, and it turns out that 95% estimated of cheating is not caught. So a lot of you just think you got away with it. You know, the reason I bring this up, this is not a cheating talk. It sounds like it. It's actually not. I'm not here to re-adjudicate old quarrels. But I don't think it's worth asking, why do we do it? You know, I've been teaching a long time, and I've seen quite a bit of cheating. And in almost none of the cases does the cheating actually help. It's very, very hard to cheat effectively enough that it would actually help your grade compared to what it would do if you just did the regular thing. Very difficult to get away with that. I won't say impossible, But it's very hard. And actually, in my experience, of the ones that I've gone through, the ones that I've caught, the ones that I'm pretty sure happened, but I couldn't catch them on it, zero, none of them would have done any better in their final grade than if they hadn't done it. Some of them did worse because they got caught. So why do you do it? A lot of people, when you talk about this, a lot of kids say, oh, I'm just lazy. No, that's not true. If you were lazy, you just wouldn't do your homework. You wouldn't copy it, right? So why do we keep doing this thing? And it's not just this room, obviously, but it is this room too, obviously. You know, something happens when you come to IMSA. A lot of you, pretty much everyone, I'm guessing, when you were at your old school, you were the smartest kid at the school. And it was great, because everyone looked at you and knew you were the smartest kid at school. And then you come to IMSA, and now you're not. And suddenly you have to struggle with the idea that you're not only you're not the smartest kid at school, sometimes you're failing a class. And this is something that's never happened in your life before. And adjusting to that is very difficult. Everyone's had this, not quite. Most of you have had this experience before. And the adjustment is difficult. We get over it. But some people handle it differently. You know, we talked about, someone actually, Ibrahim talked about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is when you feel like you don't belong and you're afraid of being found out. My theory is that while that's usually applies to the people who are kind of struggling along and feel like they don't fit in, I think it's actually more prevalent among the people who are the straight A students who are very close to it. Because they're the ones who say, see, I am the best, I am the smartest, I can do it. But secretly they doubt they can. And so you resort to cheating because you don't think you can do it, you're afraid someone will find out that you're not actually as smart as you're saying you are. And some of you haven't had this experience because you came here and you're still the smartest. Good for you, but guess what? You're going on to one of those big fancy colleges, you know, that you guys are all trying to get into. So congratulations, you made it. Let me tell you what it's like when you go to one of those fancy East Coast Ivy League schools. I've been to one. There's a lot of smart people there, turns out. And there's a remarkable experience when you go there to discover what it means to be mediocre for the first time. And you're like, well, wait, even at Harvard, aren't there some people who are the really best? And yes, there are. And you know, the fact is, I met all of you, none of you are that person, sorry. You know, the thing is, there's another graduation lie where we say everyone is special. That's an open lie because no one believes that. Just like Dash says in The Incredibles, that's the same thing as saying no one is. Because that's not what special means. Special means you stand out from other people. That other people look at you and say, that person is different from other people. And so what you really want is someone to say, this is the special person. And sometimes you can't maintain the specialness by yourself, so you have to resort to cheating about it. And then you have to follow it up with more lies, because you can't, so you have to lie to the teacher to try and keep a consistent story. And some people lie to my face, so we both know we're lying, but we go along with it anyway, apparently. And then you have to lie to your parents because you don't want your parents to believe that their kid is not the kid that they wanted to have. But, then you know what? So now it sounds like I'm saying, okay, so you shouldn't pay attention to what people demand of you. That's true too. That's nothing wrong with that. That's actually not what I'm saying either. The real problem here is that we have a standard that's really high. And sometimes we don't meet that standard, we lie about it to cover it up. But here's the real problem. That standard, it's a good standard. It's a rational, logical standard. You go and you look at the classes and you look at how IMSA works and you say, okay, I can do this. I'm going to take these classes and I'm going to take these extracurriculars, and all I need to make sure to do is to manage my time well, and I can do this. And the problem is, we don't manage our time well. And so we discover that as much as we want to, we still end up failing at what we know we needed to do. We still end up spending a lot of time binge watching from Netflix, or spending our time with those late night conversations that at the time seem like they're really deep, or just all the other things that take up our time on social media, maybe we overcommitted to clubs and so forth. And so we have a standard that's a good standard. The problem is that we just can't meet it. And you might say, okay, we should just stop paying attention to all the standards. But that's not the problem, because you see, later on in life, there are things that are standards that are not grades. Listen, there's a standard for what it means to be a good friend. And there's a standard for what it means to be a good son or daughter. And as you go on, you find more of these standards. what it means to be a good boyfriend or girlfriend, and then a good husband or wife, and then a good worker, and then a good neighbor, and then a good parent. And look, when you have kids, like I have kids, like I want only the best for my kids, and that includes they should have the best father they can. And so I know the standard of what a father should do and what he shouldn't do with their kids. I know exactly what should be done. You know when it's okay to yell at them, and other times it's not okay to yell at them. You can't yell at them because you're angry at something else. That's not fair to the kid, right? So you can't do those things. And yet I know the standard, but I can't do it. Because no matter what I do for the family, there's always more that I could do. And no matter what I do for my wife, there's always more that I could be doing. And no matter what happens, it's never enough. I was thinking of just ending the speech there, just no, but I know that. So obviously there needs to be a solution, right? I have a solution I will offer to you. Some of you will reject it, which is fine. It's just my suggestion. But maybe at least. Because why would you accept something this big, a solution from some random graduation speaker? But maybe at least I convince you of what the problem is. The problem is not cheating, fundamentally, though we could do with less of that. The problem fundamentally is not standards, though sometimes it's good not to care so much what other people think. Fundamentally, the problem is that we're just not as good as we want to be. So how do we deal with that? Well, the first thing people try is to lie about it, to pretend we're just as good as we want to be. And I think personally, fundamentally, most cheating is not really aimed at other people, but aimed at myself. That I do it because I use this to try and convince myself that I'm still good in this class, I'm still able to make it, even though I know I'm cheating. You know, they've done very interesting studies to show that people who cheat actually had an increased opinion of their own ability. It's something about it. And I think that's where it comes from. Obviously, not a great way to handle life. Eventually, the lies come crashing down. But there are other strategies. Some people just say, well, just lower your standard then. But to take a standard and to lower it to the point where it's already met is really quite unsatisfying. I mean, we know that this country, this world, this civilization was built upon people striving to do things that no one had done before, right? We want a high standard, and we're here at IMSA because we hold ourselves to a high standard. We're not ready to just cheapen it because we can't reach it. And I mean, it gets cut in that whole thing where it's just very relative. Well, I failed that class, but at least I didn't kill anyone, Mom, right? And then if you did, well, I killed someone, but at least I didn't kill 2 people, you know? So that's not the road we want to go either. That's not satisfying. So then, what do we do? I would say the first thing that we could do is admit it. Here, I'll show you. I'm a teacher. I've been teaching a long time. Some people think I'm a good teacher, and I find that very gratifying. But there's one thing that everyone will agree that I do a very, very bad job with. And that is grading papers. I'm terrible. I'm not like a little bad at it. I'm terrible at it. I'm really, really behind on it. Behind enough that the school would be justified in examining whether to fire me for it. You guys are laughing. It's not actually that funny. but the fact is, I'm really bad at it. And here's the thing. I'm not doing it on purpose. I think the teachers should grade papers. That's part of my job. I believe very seriously in doing the job I signed up for. And I believe it's very important for education. I think you need the feedback. I think it's an important part of your education. All those things are important, but you know what? I still just don't do it. And I can blame my kids. Oh, I have little kids at home, so that's what, you know, I've been doing this for 17 years. I had this problem before I had kids. It's not their fault. But what I can say is, in that regard, I'm a failure as a teacher. And to those of you in computational science, I'm sorry. So maybe one step is there, but here's the other problem. It's good, you know, it's nice to, I think it's actually good. If there's something you actually failed at and you haven't admitted it, I think it's good to admit it, to accept, to realize that happened. It doesn't stop you from pursuing it again, but you can have the humility to realize that I'm going to pursue this, and I might fail, and I can deal with that. But there's another problem, which is, what if it's something that really matters? I talk about being a teacher, but when I screw this up, there are people, there's parents especially, who don't really know how badly their kid is doing because I'm not telling them. And then there's a real consequence for that student and for that family. And it gets a lot worse than that. It's easy for me to say, well, I just made a mistake as a teacher, these things happen. But like, what if you're an engineer and you make a mistake? A building could collapse. What if you're a doctor and you make a mistake? What if you're a parent and you make a mistake? Which we do. And so the other thing we need is to realize that the earth does not revolve on whether we get it right or not. That our lives are not in our own hands. That we are not the captain of our ship, much as we might want to be. And I have my own solution to this, that those who know me would not be surprised, because I do believe that the only sensible way out of this is to realize that the only person with the authority over your life is your Creator, and that the only way to deal with the problem of never being sufficient is to surrender to the only one who ever was good enough, the man named Jesus who came. That's what I think. But you know what, you don't have to accept that, because like seriously, this is a graduation talk. I think that might not be enough to convince you. But you know, there is one more graduation tradition. It's just a personal one for me. Whenever I'm asked to give one of these things, I like to give a blessing to the class of 2025. Because you're going out into a terrible world, in some ways, full of imposters, insecure people who try to cover up their own insecurity by picking at those of others, attempting to bring down others before someone else finds out that they too are living a lie. And it's very hard to deal with that. So the best I can offer is a blessing. It's an ancient Hebrew blessing, thousands of years old. Class of 2025. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord lift up, cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and grant you peace. Because in the end, maybe peace is what we really need. Some way to get out of the constant cycle of trying to reach some standard that we can never reach. To sink back and rest on the one who said, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. So, class of 2025, a class full of cheaters and liars, and failures, imposters, and wonderful and beautiful and lovely and precious and, yes, special people. A word of advice from a failed teacher. It's customary now to feel anxiety about the future. To feel like the world is going crazy, everything is going bad, doesn't matter which political party you belong to, you think everything is going crazy. That your own job prospects are terrible, everything is going to be bad. It's good for you to know that the fate of the world does not rest on your shoulders. You don't need to change the world. By all means, go out there and do what you can. But you will fail sometimes, and it's okay. Because maybe there's one graduation cliche that maybe by accident is actually right. Not because of you, sometimes maybe even in spite of you, but by the grace of God, you have a bright, shining future ahead of you. So go out and enjoy it. Congratulations.